Morning. Happy full moon, Pisces. It'll actually peak here in the Eastern time zone at 12:10, I think. The eclipse. Actually, I think it's the peak of the. We're feeling it. It doesn't matter. But yeah, and then the Kazemi of Mercury and the Sun today. In the afternoon, about 12 hours before, a little longer, a little shorter than 12 hours before. We're going to use the Golden Thread Tarot, designed by Tina Gong, Labyrinthos. goldenthread.co is the other reference on the back there. Five of Wands. Power struggle. King of Cups. And then we have three here. You have the Queen of Cups, the King of Pentacles. This lighting is actually pretty good for this today. And the Four of Cups. Considering, but she has like a very interesting look on her face. Like, is this really the cup? Which is very typical. So yeah, power struggle. But mastery of emotions. Five of Wands is a power struggle, but it's just a power struggle. It's not something about thoughts. It's actually more about the approach, the actions, the way you're going to do things, the actions that, the way you want to do things and the way somebody else wants to do things, and or the way the construct of the situation is. There may be a a tussle, a struggle about how that's going to get done, how things should get done. But typically, if it's a should get done, that would be more of a swords, because it's kind of a mind framework of the mind. This is like the way we go about doing things, how we think things should go down, or how we think the actions of, the doing of something. The King of Cups, though, so you can be like a little bit of, there's an emotional component to that. Like you're emotionally invested in how the thing should turn out. And how the emotion, how this is kind of like recognizing that the work is getting done and the spiritual needs are being met, and there's a higher spiritual ideal that we want to, but the way we've been going about it perhaps isn't really going to get you there. So the King and the Queen are both here. So nurturing oneself as we kind of sift through all of these emotions. We're actually trying to operate with a higher emotional intelligence in order to be in leadership. Got the King and the Queen. So we've got the actions as well as the kind of holding component, the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. So the king is going to act act from a standpoint of emotional stability, of emotional integrity when it comes into these kinds of negotiations, if you will. The King of Pentacles is also here, and so he can be kind of like. And so here's where we're going to get, to help ground some of this energy, to ground the fire, to ground the water, to bring in that. Okay, let's dial it down to basics. Like, what are we actually going to? What's going to be the invest? How are we going to invest all of our resources, our emotional resources, our spiritual resources, and get that all in alignment? You may have to stop and think about it, though, because what's on offer may not be necessarily, again, to your liking, which is where we come back to this kind of thing. But this can be looking at the cup half empty and really just being fixated on these other 3 cups. She's actually got all the cups. Maybe she doesn't really see that by adding in this 4th cup. By adding, this is something that's going to add to the cup inventory, if you will. Changing the approach helps to bring the emotional intelligence and leadership, and combining and not letting the emotions just, and the feelings, feel the feelings, feel them, let them have their breath, but they don't have to dictate the situation, because our feelings are often veiled by previous experience, which is why we need the grounding of the King of Pentacles. We need to ground and feel what we're feeling. I see that there is actually, interestingly enough, there's a cross at the top of the castle behind him. Crossing, the cross is a symbol of surrender and forgiveness. Forgive what's been. Start on new footing. Start on new footing, and really feel for what's valuable. I see that he also has horns of like an elk. So an elk is like grandfather wisdom. This is like ancestral stuff. So, pulling the wisdom from the ancestral stuff, not letting that ancestral stuff, that past stuff, necessarily, like I said, like often when we are pulling from past experience, the temptation is to look at the hurt and only the hurt, rather than realize that, even within those challenges, we've met those challenges. We can meet more, and we can continue to keep going. So how do you want to engage? How do you want to enact? Again, another action card, because it's a man, because it's masculine energy. What are the actions how are we going to invest the actions? And not let, and be in better emotional leadership. Bottom of the deck, Ace of Cups. Holy Spirit there at the top, eagle eye, taking that 30,000-foot view of what's going to be of the greatest and highest spiritual benefit, which is automatic, and the High Priestess is continuing to be here. That's going to take us to higher ground, 6 of Swords. That's going to bring us the spiritual work that we do benefits. I've said this a billion times, is of greater benefit than just the personal. The more we improve and wisen up, High Priestess, ourselves, it automatically benefits everybody around us. Pisces. That's one of the qualities of Pisces, but doing it in a grounded way. Not in a doormat way. There's no doormats in there. But in order to not be a doormat, it's important to feel those feelings, because then we get into that kind of victim, blame, shame, and resentment game. which isn't a good rhyme. Enjoy this eclipse energy. We'll hopefully be able to come back and do our reading for you tomorrow. If not, we'll see one another when we do. Many blessings. Thanks for being here. This is a reading for the collective. So like, share, subscribe, or directly send it to somebody who you think might need to hear it. If you want your own private message, just direct message me on any platform where you see it. Have a great one.